All the effects of answer therapy are my own discoveries. Profound comfort is the only way to witness those effects. However, types of autonomic nervous system self-regulation can be found in other methods that also offer extraordinary benefits. This video discusses two practitioners who knew how to access this phenomenon of nervous system self-regulation, but they used procedures very different from answer therapy. Not only were they medical precedents, they were also social precedents due to rejection by medical practitioners and the public. For people considering answer therapy, it may be helpful to know that there are precedents, and their results also sounded unbelievable to the public and the medical community. Spontaneous Healing is a best-selling book by Dr. Andrew Weil, published in 1995. Dr. Weil devoted the second chapter of a best-selling book to describing the work of Dr. Robert Fulford, an old-school osteopath who specialized in osteopathic manipulation. Dr. Fulford was renowned for curing many conditions in 1 or 2 visits, including chronic musculoskeletal pain, using non-invasive manipulation. I want to talk about one of his techniques, an electric vibrating hammer that he invented. And I recommend that you watch some other videos about Dr. Fulford. I'll put some links below on YouTube. Dr. Fulford was one of the rare practitioners who knew that traumatic injuries can leave a residual chronic tension in and around the injury site. That's what I call injury memory. Dr. Fulford called it the shock of an injury. When he removed the shock from the body in 1 or 2 treatments, he cured chronic pain years or decades after the injury healed. He did this by placing his vibrating hammer in certain spots on the body. He would hold it there until he felt what he called a release of the tension. To me, it sounds like a subtle type of discharge. There are several types of discharge we see with answer therapy, and some are very subtle, very mild. In any case, Dr. Fulford's hammer stimulated a deep relaxation response in the autonomic nervous system, which neutralized the injury memory. It became a non-issue, which means permanent pain elimination. That was nervous system self-regulation facilitated by an electronic device. Dr. Fulford was a pioneer. He got results that no one else could get, not even other osteopaths. Answer therapy is completely different. There's no manipulation of any kind. Using relaxation only, answer therapy accesses a natural nervous system mechanism that neutralizes injury memory. I call it the pain discharge mechanism. I describe it in videos 1 and 2. Dr. Fulford's hammer triggered unnoticeable discharges in several areas of the body. With the pain discharge, there's a strong, unmistakable discharge only in the original injury site. The injury site and the areas with secondary symptoms relax completely and permanently years after the injury healed. I suspect that pain discharge has advantages over Dr. Fulford's approach because the pain discharge also purges tissue stagnation, which I believe is a causative factor in certain diseases, like osteoarthritis, CRPS, and many others. But if you cannot come for answer therapy, I suggest you look for an osteopath who uses the Fulford hammer, also called a percussion hammer. I'd like to read something from Spontaneous Healing. Dr. Weil tells a story about his friend Kim, a 34-year-old man. Kim wanted prescriptions to knock out what he thought were more parasites in his gut, but the picture he presented was not one of infection. I urged him to see a highly recommended gastroenterologist at the University of Arizona Health Sciences Center. After a long and expensive series of tests, culminating in a biopsy of the colon, the gastroenterologist could not identify the problem, except to say that Kim's colon was severely and chronically inflamed. I think we should go in and take out more tissue, the gastroenterologist told me. Then maybe we'll find out what the hell he's got. This did not sound encouraging. Kim had a long history of playing contact sports, including boxing. He had been a heavyweight in the Army and had suffered many traumatic injuries. In addition to the intestinal problems, he complained of episodes of bad back and neck pain. It seemed to me that Dr. Fulford might be able to make sense of this whole picture. He goes to Dr. Fulford. "He's a quack," were Kim's first words. "I mean, he's a nice old man, but he doesn't do anything." "What did he tell you?" "He said I was in critical condition, that my cranial motions were completely shut down because of old injuries, and that the cranial nerve controlling the digestive system was not functioning as a result. But he seemed so feeble, and he's got all these nervous tics. I felt sorry for him." "What do you mean by nervous tics?" "You know, when he has that vibrator on you, every few minutes his hand flies up in the air and his whole body jerks." "Really?" "Yes, it's kind of sad." When Dr. Fulford was using his hammer device, his hands would jerk when he felt a release. That was his way of sensing what was happening in the patient's body. But this guy, who did not know anything about the method, jumped to a negative interpretation of Dr. Fulford's behavior. He did not even wait to see his results before getting totally negative about the experience. It's very important that we notice that attitude and how it affects our behavior. He could have died. He was in critical condition. I called Dr. Fulford for his view of the session. "Mr. Clifton came in not a moment too soon," he told me. "His whole primary respiratory mechanism was shut down. I think he really would have gone downhill fast." "Were you able to help him?" "Oh yes, I got major releases from many parts of his body, undid a lot of the trauma, and got the impulses flowing again. Once the vagus nerve kicks in, he'll be all right." 6 hours after the treatment, Kim's diarrhea stopped for the first time in 8 months, never to return. Over the next 3 months, he regained all of his lost weight and energy. The back and neck pain disappeared, and he stopped breathing through his mouth. "He saved my life," Kim told me later. "I'm convinced that man saved my life." He has since become a passionate convert to alternative medicine in general, and osteopathy in particular. This cure was so impressive that I tried to arrange a conference to discuss the case with Dr. Fulford, Kim, myself, and the university gastroenterologist. That doctor said he was interested, but failed to show. When I asked him why, he told me, "Look, I'm not going to argue with success, but I can't believe that osteopathic treatment had anything to do with the outcome." Here we have concrete evidence, but this doctor said this cure was not possible. He said he doesn't argue with success, which is what they always say, but this success was not possible. If you're serious about getting the best health care, and you're willing to try natural medicine, you need to understand the social barriers waiting for you. These barriers have nothing to do with science or medicine. They're social barriers created by medical practitioners and laypeople working together. Some practitioners have a vested interest in never learning about new, inexpensive medicine that outperforms their methods. Why? They could lose money. But many practitioners have nothing to lose. They could easily tell you that they heard about a certain method, but they don't because there's a problem that's deeper than money. And that is, the average person, including doctors and scientists, has trouble learning about exciting, unfamiliar ideas, especially in medicine. So, when a medical scientist like Dr. Fulford develops a method that looks like he's doing nothing because it's totally non-invasive, but he gets results that no one else knows about, the average person says, "That's not possible. It's too different and it's too exciting." The average person will say, "That's too good to be true." And then they spread their opinion to other people, their patients, family, and friends. That's how people police each other, to make sure that no one learns about a new, superior medical method. In my experience, the vast majority of chronic pain sufferers will choose chronic suffering over learning. That's very sad. Doctors choose chronic suffering for others over learning. That's despicable. So, if you want pain elimination, you need to break the mold and make your own observations. When everyone around you says, "Don't bother, that's too good to be true." The other practitioner I want to talk about is Dr. John Sarno. another renowned physician and medical scientist. He spoke many times on TV and radio. He's discussed in dozens of articles in popular medical books, including Spontaneous Healing. Dr. Sarno said that people with bulging or herniated spinal discs were statistically normal, even when they had 7 herniated discs or cracks in the bones. He said their chronic pain was caused by their struggle with repressed emotions, especially anger. Physical pain distracted them from feeling their emotions. By catastrophizing over their structural damage, they were causing a stress response in their back muscles that caused chronic pain, and often debilitating pain. Dr. Sarno's remedy was learning about the real problem plus relaxation. When his patients relaxed, their pain stopped. That's actually behavior science applied to medicine. Dr. Sarno's approach accessed nervous system self-regulation. His method was and still is extremely effective. He helped over 10,000 patients to either eliminate their chronic pain or to become independent of all pain medicine. Dr. Sarno's method and answer therapy both access nervous system self-regulation, but the methods are different with different applications. Dr. Sarno's method is pure mind-body medicine with a delayed pain relief response over hours, days, or weeks. And it works for acute pain. That's where it really shines. Answer is a hands-on form of body work or massage system with immediate responses while you're lying on the treatment table. Acute musculoskeletal pain, like a severe muscle spasm, is contraindicated for answer therapy because it doesn't allow you to get comfortable during a relaxation treatment. You need a longer period of time to relax, like days or weeks. Migraine headache is different because most clients can get comfortable with a migraine in progress. Also, acute pain could be an emergency that needs a visit to a hospital. Dr. Sarno gave us 2 critical pieces of information. He proved that structural damage in the spine does not cause pain in most cases. And he proved that the stress response, which produces muscle tension, does cause pain. Therefore, when you relax, your stress response decreases and your pain stops, despite your structural damage. So the real question is, what's causing your stress response? This is where I disagree with Dr. Sarno in certain cases. He made a blanket statement about the vast majority of chronic pain cases. He said they were all about avoiding repressed emotions. That may be true for most people with spinal disc problems. However, there are some purely biological causes of stress response, such as the shock of an injury that leaves an injury memory in your nervous system. Injury memory is a chronic stress response that can cause pain for decades. So you can use Dr. Sarno's method and relax the area by thinking about it every time the pain comes back, or you can do answer therapy and remove the injury memory, so it becomes a non-issue, as with Dr. Fulford's method. Many of Dr. Sarno's patients had a traumatic injury followed by chronic pain, probably caused by injury memory. And many of them need to repeat the protocol for their own pain management, which is unnecessary if your nervous system eliminates the injury memory. I'll put some links below for a few videos about Dr. Sarno. If you watch only one of those videos, watch the 2020 segment. In that video, the reporter interviews an orthopedic surgeon. The surgeon admits that mainstream medicine has not found a solution to back pain, given all the evidence. But he does not think that Dr. Sarno's theory is the answer, despite all the evidence. In the interview, he says, "This is not a mainstream theory with regard to back pain." Why does he say that? He's letting us know that the majority is right and the minority is wrong, despite the evidence. He goes on to insult Dr. Sarno by comparing his method to swinging a cat around your head in a cemetery. In the same video, the reporter interviews his own brother, a Harvard Medical School professor who refuses to try Dr. Sarno's method, despite his own brother's perfect results. He calls the method simplistic and ridiculous, which means his brother's perfect results never happened. He says he's not convinced that Dr. Sarno actually helps anyone. He will not even try the method without first being convinced. Refusing to make observations is anti-science. And this guy identifies himself as a scientist, and he's training new doctors. You should watch these videos because you need to see this behavior yourself. If you never see it yourself, you would never believe that people are really like that, especially not doctors. Carl Sagan is often quoted as saying, "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence." More accurately, extraordinary claims require extraordinary learning capacity. If you don't have adequate learning capacity, it doesn't matter how much evidence someone shows you. You will be unable to acknowledge the evidence. You'll say, "There's no evidence." There are many very intelligent people with zero learning capacity for exciting, unfamiliar ideas. Intelligence is different from learning capacity, which means desire to learn plus tolerance for learning. Intolerance of learning is a type of dysfunction I call anti-science. The same thing happens in every science where exciting discoveries are made. Even doctors and scientists will insist there's no evidence. Most of them never even look at the evidence, but they say there's no evidence. The problem with this situation is that the average person believes their doctors when they give their uneducated opinion about exciting new natural medicine. Most people presume that their doctors are scientific. In general, they are not scientific. They're average people who have just as much trouble learning as anyone else. In other words, you're on your own when you need accurate information for chronic health problems. When confronted with exciting, unfamiliar ideas, I recommend being scientific. That means you don't believe or disbelieve the information. You don't need to believe something before you learn about it, but you act as if you believe it, you try it, and you make your own observations. Then, and this is critical, you need to acknowledge your observations, no matter how unlikely they appear. Some people are scientific enough to make their own observations, but they're not scientific enough to acknowledge their observations. And that gets really weird. It's not enough to point your eyes at something. You need to say, something actually happened. And then you tell someone else. That's how you help your patients, family, and friends, and make the world a better place. I'll be doing a video that explains what science and anti-science are, and how to protect yourself from anti-science. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching.